tumbling through 1,000 centuries. You don't know where you land. It's so dark in mythology. Treasures of history to be found. The legends of time. All the handiworks remain. Only dream away. Orion, Orion,
Season 2 ran from the 31st of October 1964 until the 24th of July 1965. It featured 39 episodes over 9 stories, and gave the show its first pseudo-historical. A historical which featured sci-fi elements not limited to the Doctor, the TARDIS, etc. And gave us our first ever companion departures. The first story is the 3-part Planet of Giants, and no, has nothing to do with the late 60s Irwin Allen show that you may or may not be familiar with. There's been a malfunction with the TARDIS and so it's shrunk. Not just the exterior, which wouldn't be a massive deal other than you couldn't leave, but the whole thing. And the people too, for some reason. Everyone's about an inch tall, and considering the story's called Planet of the Giants, I think it took them way too long to work out what exactly had happened. There's 2 notable things about this story. 1, it's 3 parts long. Very unusual. And 2, it was meant to be 4 parts long. The last 2 episodes were cut down into a single episode in post-production. Apparently because it was slow, but it was 1960s Doctor Who. Everything about it was slow. I wonder why this got special treatment. On the DVD, however, they made an effort to recreate the original version by using a mix of existing footage, still images, the original scripts, the surviving actors providing voices, and a couple of impersonators, including the guy who voiced Hartnell in Day of the Doctor. It's shit like that that makes buying classic Who on DVD so worthwhile. They fucking love the show and can't stop coming up with demented ways to prove it, and sticking those ways in special features on the DVDs. The second story is the Dalek invasion of Earth, because once you've seen the Daleks on their home planet, it's only fair they get a whack at yours. It's the 22nd century and 200 years haven't been kind to the world. It's turned back to the mid-60s. The Daleks plan to remove the Earth's core and turn the planet into a massive spaceship / battle station / wine bar. I might have made part of that up, but only part of it. It takes our heroes 6 episodes to stop them, even though someone could have easily tapped the Dalek on the dome and pointed out their plan is fucking stupid. This is the story where Susan leaves. She decides she's fallen in love with the man who helped defeat the Daleks, so the Doctor locks her out of the TARDIS and leaves her with him. On fucked up, desolate future Earth, when neither of them asked him to. Oh Doctor, you scamp. Next up is the 2-part The Rescue, which even though the title heavily suggests it isn't about a chocolate factory. They come across Susan's replacement Vicky on a wrecked ship. She's looking after an injured crew member and being menaced by an alien called Coquillion. How and why they're being menaced, and what's going on in general, is too silly to go into here. You'll have to watch the story to find out. Or find the Doctor Who wiki at least. With Vicky joining the crew, it's time for the first historical of the season. The Romans is 4 episodes long and deals with slavery, gladiators, assassination, Nero being crazy, and the Great Fire of Rome, which killed a fuckload of people. So we all know this is going to be a comedy.
Enjoying yourself, dearest?
Oh, I'm so sorry. I didn't know you were there. Did you want something?
No.
Next up is the Web Planet. It's 6 episodes long, and to save time, you should maybe just pause the video now and laugh. A lot. Why? Because the Web Planet is accidentally hilarious. The crew land on the planet Vortis, a planet inhabited by giant sentient insects called the Menoptera, the Zarbi, and the Optra. Why is this so funny? Because we spend 2 hours with special effects like this, when the only humanish characters are the TARDIS crew. Even today, this concept on the small screen would elicit laughter. Just imagine what it was like 50 years ago. I'm not saying the Web Planet is bad. I like it. I like it more than most Hartnell stories, but its ambition outstripped reality by several thousand times. The villain of the story was the Animus, the first truly cosmically powerful foe the Doctor faced. And it was basically a mushroom-octopus hybrid. So yeah. The Animus was one of the uber-powerful creatures in the show that the books later connected to the Cthulhu mythos. Basically, they were all survivors from the previous universe that collapsed and formed this one. a bit like Galactus. The survivors of the previous universe became super powerful and somehow influenced H.P. Lovecraft's mind to create the mythos. Every god he created is real in the Doctor Who universe, if you include those books in your canon. Which you should, because that's badass. After that, we have another 4-part historical, The Crusade. One thing you'll notice with early Classic Who is that the sci-fi stories are generally imaginative with their names, and the historicals tend to do exactly what they say on the tin. The Romans is about Romans. The Aztecs features Aztecs. The Gunfighters is about the gunfight at the OK Corral. The Mythmakers is about the creation of the myth of the Trojan War. The Massacre of St. Bartholomew's Eve is about a massacre that happened on the eve of St. Bartholomew's Day. I'm not leading into a joke. The titles are really that direct. Anyway, The Crusade is about Richard the Lionheart and Saladin. You might recognize the guy playing Richard. It's Julian Glover from Season 17's City of Death. But you might have also seen him as the bad guy in a little film called Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade. You see how this all fits? This is the only story of Season 2 that's still got stuff missing. Half of it exists. Season 2 is the most complete season of Doctor Who prior to Season 7 and colour. The Space Museum follows. It's 4 episodes long and features the first real use of a time trick. The sort of thing that Moffat loves. They arrive in the titular Space Museum. It's a museum in space. And find themselves on display, so they go back in time to try and avert it. Do they manage it? Watch this story and find out. You know you want to. It's got this scene.
I fooled them all. I am the master.
Next we have The Chase, notable because it's about the Daleks but doesn't have the word in the title. It's also 6 episodes long, meaning that the Daleks have appeared in over a quarter of the episodes this season. And I thought they were overused now. The Dalek stories were following a very vague pattern. First it's Skaro, the home planet of the Daleks, then it's Earth, and now it's Earth again, and other places. Basically, the Daleks have time travel and they're chasing the TARDIS through time and space. The previous 2 Dalek stories were adapted into films in the mid-60s, one of whom starred Bernard Cribbins, aka one of the few good things about the Russell T Davies era. This one was going to be adapted too, but that never happened for some reason involving money and reviews. This is the story where Ian and Barbara leave the TARDIS, finally giving up and getting to their exact home time and making do with being a few years out of date. We also meet their replacement, Stephen Taylor, an astronaut from the future, but we won't realise that until the next story, The Time Meddler. So how come we met him in one story and only found out he's a companion in the next? Well, he turned up near the end of The Chase, having been tortured by the evil mechanoids and then apparently left the story. But at the start of The Time Meddler, we discover that he wandered into the TARDIS off-screen. And so now he's part of the crew. But that's not the only frankly crazy thing about Stephen. He was played by Peter Purves, who several episodes earlier in The Chase had turned up with a terrible American accent playing a tourist on the Empire State Building. Did you think it was bad that Amy and Martha were clones of characters who'd appeared in the previous season? Well, at least they didn't appear in the same fucking story as their other part. And yeah, for the one person out there who really likes Daleks in Manhattan, this story does indeed feature the Daleks and the Empire State Building together again for the first time. Now on to The Time Meddler. The Time Meddler is one of my favourite Hartnell stories, and it's the first pseudo-historical, a truly novel idea where you mix a historical setting with science fiction. There's lots they could do with that, just imagine the possibilities. Daleks with Winston Churchill, Vincent van Gogh and a giant invisible chicken, a shape-changing robot pretending to be King John. They could do anything. And they frequently will. No matter how much I wish they'd stop and just do a pure historical once in a while. Anyway, this story introduced the meddling monk. That's not a name he calls himself. A rival Time Lord who flies around space and time fucking with history, partly to put right what he thinks went wrong, and partly for the lols. So he's basically the Doctor, but he doesn't have his own TV show. In this story, he's planning on changing the outcome of the Battle of Hastings so the Saxons win. And luckily for him, the Doctor is really not into that. Season 2 was where the show really started taking strides to become the show it is today. The original companions left, thus indicating the show might run longer than originally thought. The pseudo-historical was born, which eventually would spell the end for the pure historical and completely end the show's original intention, teaching kids about science and history. It was the season of Dalek mania. They're overshadowing everything, for better and for worse. Join me next time for Season 3, when we'll see an episode that doesn't feature the Doctor, the TARDIS, or any companions. we'll see possibly the longest story in the show's history, and a musical.
Measure the mystery and the sound without taking up time. Show the handiworks remain. Only a dream around.
Well, there you are, young man. What do you think of that now, eh? A Viking helmet.
Maybe.
What do you mean, maybe? What do you think it is, a space helmet for a cow?